Welcome back to the Fit Minute Podcast, Fitness for Real People, with your host, Gabrielle Mazar. On today's episode, Gabrielle interviews author, organization specialist, and certified health coach, Stacey Crew. Her book, Mind, Body, Kitchen, Transform You and Your Kitchen for a Healthier Lifestyle, addresses the components of organizing the kitchen, mindset, nutrition, and exercise. And now here's your host, personal trainer and stretch therapist, Gabrielle Mazar.
Welcome back to the Fit Minute Podcast, Fitness for Real People. I'm your host, Gabby Mazar, and on today's episode, I have Stacey Crew. She is a certified health coach and organizing expert. She has written the book, Mind, Body, Kitchen, Transform You and Your Kitchen for a Healthier Lifestyle. So welcome to the show today, Stacey.
Thanks, Gabrielle. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for coming on the show. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself? You're a certified health coach and an organizing expert. What exactly does that mean, and how do those two things mesh together?
Yeah, great question. So I actually started my career in marketing and publishing. But when I was probably about 14 years into my career, I had an opportunity to try something different. I was married, had young children, but quickly realized that being at home and not having something for myself, I wanted to fill that piece of me and that part of me. So I was going through a personal discovery at the time. As I mentioned, I was married, had two small children, and we had moved already, upgraded our house. And, I had the house, the 2-car garage, all the things, right? And I was completely overwhelmed with clutter. So I went through this transformation where I started decluttering, and it made an incredible impact on me that I wanted to help other people. Mm-hmm. So I started an organizing business, and I did that for quite a few years. And as soon as I started the business, I realized that my method and my philosophy, I wanted to put it into a book. So I wrote a book called The Organized Mom. And after about a dozen or so years of helping people get their lives in order and their homes in order and all of that, I again had another kind of thing happen in my life, another stage, and I was experiencing a lot of anxiety. I'd gotten my physical surroundings to a place where I could manage everything. Kids were a little bit older. I got divorced. Still had things to manage, but I wanted to rid myself of the anxiety. And I started running. And when I started running, I realized that I needed to improve what I was eating, right? To fuel my body and my mind. And a few years after I started that, I realized that I wanted to help people with that too. So I got a certification in health coaching, and that was 6 years ago. Again, it's just my way of organizing information. I started writing a book, and that's the book that came out last year called Mind, Body, Kitchen. And what I did was I took, what I realized is it's hard for people to get into the kitchen to create simple, healthy meals if the kitchen is cluttered and if our time, our schedule is cluttered. So I'm putting the two pieces together to help people get their kitchens organized, simplify things so that they can create simple, healthy meals in an organized kitchen.
So a lot of people struggle with diet and fitness and the whole idea of health. I think organizing helps to kind of get your mind in the right mindset to change those things, especially if you're taking things out of the kitchen that are either triggers for you or things that you can't stop, like chips, like a bag of chips, or just getting those things and your mind right. How do you support the up and downs of dieting and help people to eat better and live healthier?
Yeah, great question. So, the reason that my book is titled Mind, Body, Kitchen is that a lot of it begins with mindset. You know, if we're in the right mindset, we can begin to make these small changes that eventually add up to big results. Much of improving our health and what we eat has to do with changing habits and behaviors. So like mentioning the chips and, you know, and what I recommend, I mean, just simple steps to recommend that I recommend to people are, you know, if you have a salt craving, don't ignore that, because that's your body telling you something, right? You know, that it's very simply craving salt. So it's really about finding healthier ways, so healthier upgrades. So, you know, if you're eating Lay's potato chips, for example, maybe find something that has fewer ingredients, that's a little bit healthy, but can still satisfy that craving. So I don't believe in making these dramatic changes, because you know, when we try to make dramatic changes, it becomes kind of this all or nothing thinking. So if we don't do it perfectly, if we don't do it right, you know, the first time, then we're a failure. So, you know, it's really strengthening our mindset and making these small incremental changes.
Yeah, I've always been a proponent for starting small. I think people, they try to jump in 110%, not realizing that that 110% is going to push them over the edge to quit, because you're taking out everything you enjoy and then adding in, let's say, a fitness program that you don't necessarily love, and then you're going all in. And if you miss a day at the gym, or if you have donuts, or if you do have that one slip up, you're right, you get that all or nothing mindset. It's like, I screwed up, forget it, you know, I have to start over, or you just don't start over at all. When the idea behind it is that you're not starting over, you're just being consistent. So you can have chips, you can have chocolate, you can have donuts. You just can't have donuts every single day for every meal. You know, you can have one when you have a little craving, or have half a donut. I think one of the things that I do is I keep like dark chocolate covered almonds, or like an almond Hershey bar or something in the freezer. And then I just have a piece of it. I've trained myself over many, many years not to eat the entire thing, but it's a baby step. You know, when I have a craving for chocolate, I want chocolate. So if I tell myself not to eat it when I want it, then I have all of it. So yeah, it's definitely that mindset. So how does organizing your kitchen lead to living a healthier lifestyle? Why is it so important to get that done first?
Well, so if you're, you know, it's kind of like an event, you know, if and I use a wedding as an example, because, you know, we've all been to a wedding, you know, maybe we've had our own wedding, right? It's an event. It requires a lot of planning, a lot of consideration, and any well done event, any well executed event, there's been a lot of forethought. You know, you don't just show up and, you know, the party goes off like that. So it really is looking at your kitchen from a different perspective. So that's one of the things that I help people do. You know, there's a lot of people have appliances on the countertops, right, that take up valuable real estate. So it's assessing, okay, if I'm going to keep the KitchenAid, which, you know, is a beautiful piece of art, right? Really, I mean, it comes in different colors. It's like the liquor crusade.
Different attachments. You can do all different. I mean, you can even make ice cream with the KitchenAid.
Yeah. Well, if you're using the KitchenAid on a regular basis, then leave it out, because not only does it look pretty, but, you know, it's functional. It's something that you're going to reach for. So you don't want to be pulling it out every other day. But there are other things too that just get really crowded. And granted, some people are the type of, they have, you know, if it's not out and they don't see it, they forget they have it. So it's really just helping people look at their kitchen a little bit differently, put things where they use them. So near the stove, you want the spices within reach. So in a cabinet, maybe, up over the stove, as opposed to across the kitchen in a pantry that you're walking, back and forth. You're getting your steps in, but it's not an efficient use of time when you're trying to cook a simple, healthy meal.
Right.
Yeah. So I start there because that's what seems to be the biggest obstacle for people is, well, I don't have time, or, I can't find things. And again, like fridge and pantry organization, that's really key in the process as well, because, that's where you keep your food. So one thing that I do recommend to people, and this came up very recently, is in your refrigerator, when you open the door, you want the healthiest things at eye level, because that's what you're going to reach for. That's what your brain is going to see right away. So if you can trick your brain a little bit into, okay, oh, I see greens, hopefully eventually those will become more desirable than, whatever else it is that might be at eye level currently. So it's just it's an important thing to consider. I know plenty of busy families that have beautiful kitchens that don't use them. And it's a byproduct of time. They're just incredibly busy with sports after school and into the evening, or just, I don't know, busy with other activities. I'm kind of past that stage, which, so I'm trying to pull from the recesses of my mind here, but it leads to ordering out, ordering takeout. So it's again, just kind of shifting not only the kitchen, but our schedule and all of that too.
So speaking of kids, how do you get kids on board? How can you as a mom make those changes and be able to transfer them to your entire family or to your kids, and maybe teach them better ways or to eat different things? I know kids can be really, really picky, and it might be difficult sometimes. And especially if you're busy, the last thing you're going to do is cook 2 meals.
Yeah, short order cooking, right?
Yeah.
This I do remember very vividly, because I didn't want to be the short order cook, and I was a short order cook for a number of years, until I finally said, I'm just, I didn't necessarily say it directly to my kids, but I was like, I can't be cooking, mac and cheese over here, and I don't know, hot dogs, which I don't really think I served much, but that's what came to mind.
Yeah.
So, and too, when my girls, I have 2 daughters, and they're almost 3 years apart. And when they were in their early teens, within 6 months of one another, they both became vegetarian. So that threw, like, oh my gosh. And I'm in the middle of my own health journey, and it's like, what am I going to cook? So we made it a family thing. Mm-hmm. And I think that, even small children, you can start to introduce them into preparing healthy foods and make it a family a family activity, really.
Yeah.
But, we have, as moms, as parents, we're influencers, right? I mean, we buy the meals, we can include them in the meal planning, and, just have them try different things. And, I know a lot of people talk about growing up in like the Clean Plate Club, or where parents, I don't think this happens as much today, but years ago, parents would, say, if you don't finish your dinner, you're going to have to sit here, or we're going to save it for breakfast tomorrow.
Oh, many times.
I think today that might be considered, not such great parenting, but, yeah. But I think we can influence family members, by what we serve, by what we, maybe having a backup through a transition, right? Because, if a kid's really hungry, you're not going to deny them, a meal, but slowly introducing them to new things and making them part of the process.
Yeah. One of the things my girlfriend, who has a 10 and a 12-year-old, or 11 and 13-year-old now, she sneaks veggies into every meal. So they don't necessarily know they're eating it, but they are. So, if she does like lasagna, it's got lots of veggies in it. If they're doing whatever meal it is, she makes sure that she adds those things to the meal. And then what it does is, although they might not know they're eating it, the taste, they're eating it and they have a taste for it. So they develop, or they have developed, a liking to certain things, because her older one was very, very, very picky. And she was like, nope, we're not doing this. I'm not making you different meals. You're going to eat what we eat as a family. This is how we're going to do it. So it seemed to work well for her. Not to say that that's for every single person, but yeah.
And that's brilliant. And there is something to that, like what you said about the taste. So processed food, which is anything that's packaged, really, that has a nutritional label that gives you, the details of what's in the food.
Mm-hmm.
My simple recommendation for people is, if you are going to choose like a jarred tomato sauce, for example, 2 things to look at: the ingredients, make sure it has 5 ingredients or less, and also the sodium levels, because you're going to see that the sodium levels in most of those jarred tomatoes sauces, for example, are probably 600 milligrams plus.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've found one at Trader Joe's that has like 350 grams, but that sodium, it not only it changes your taste buds,
Mm-hmm.
over time. So you're absolutely right. So introducing vegetables and things like that, at first people are going to say, oh, I don't really like the taste of it, and it's because they haven't been tasting real food.
Right.
um,
And
yeah.
you're so used to the extra salt content, the extra sugar content in the foods, that when you don't have that, it can taste bland. Not to say that that putting salt in your food or cooking with salt is bad, or even cooking sugar, probably not as much. You should probably stay away from that, just because there is so much sugar in everything already. But adding salt to foods, especially if you're cooking from scratch, is not a bad thing. It's just that, especially when you're getting those packaged foods, the amount of it in there is astronomical. And then you have to add that with what you're eating for the rest of the day. You are way over your values for the day, which is what leads to, the high cholesterol, heart disease, Inflammation absolutely is a huge one, which inflammation leads to cancers and illnesses, autoimmune diseases. So you have to think about the things that you're feeding yourself. You want to feed your kids and your family too. So you have to, as much as you don't want to look at those things, maybe spending an extra 10 cents on a can of tomato sauce isn't that big of a deal at the end of the day,
Right.
So doing things as a family is one of the ways to kind of bring exercise and fitness more into a family. It's a great motivator, but exercise can be very intimidating. What are some ways that you recommend, and how does your book break the stigmas of fitness and exercise and help people to be more active and encourage them to lead a healthier lifestyle?
So my approach to exercise is, it doesn't, because, so I'm an introvert, and the idea of a group class, that's a little bit like torture for me, because I would prefer to do something on my own. I'm coordinated at some things, oddly enough, but if I were to do Zumba, it would be a mess, I'm not even going to pretend to go there. So understanding that about myself helped me understand what it must be like for other people. I think it's wonderful, those who love group classes, and if that's your thing and you are energized by that, go for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah. But I think it's really important to understand too that movement is movement. It doesn't have to be a formal class. It doesn't have to be, a regimented routine. And again, it kind of ties back to what we started the conversation with, about how it's all or nothing. So I just suggest to people, get a Fitbit or an Apple Watch, or even just something, it doesn't even need to be that expensive. Something that's going to track your steps. I think you can track steps on an iPhone. and just put your sneakers on and go for a walk.
Yeah.
Start there. Just, and when it comes to families, turn the TV off, get outside, get the fresh air. It's just, I think that's the thing that's so important, that, we give our mind a break and we give our body some movement. And it's become increasingly important because technology is literally, right in our hands.
And it forces us to sit. A lot of sitting on your computer, on your phone, watching TV, on an iPad, whatever you're doing, we're sitting so much. And just 7,000 to 10,000 steps a day can increase your mortality rate by, it's like over 30%. And that's a short walk. That's not anything extraordinary. I mean, that's a little bit of something that you can do every single day and build from there. Like we were saying, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. It doesn't have to be CrossFit. It doesn't have to be group classes. It doesn't even have to, you don't even have to buy a Peloton and go hard for 45 minutes. Just start small and build from there. And I think we look at it as it's so intimidating because we don't know what we're doing necessarily sometimes when you go to a fitness class, so you're afraid to go to the fitness class. But if you start just walking every single day and going for a walk, it builds from there. You may find, hiking on the mountain a little bit more exciting or more fun. And then from there, you may find Pilates, or you may go to yoga classes, or then you might decide, yeah, maybe I will try a group fitness class. But if you are easing yourself into it and changing your habits daily, that is when you will find your consistency that helps you to live and lead a healthier lifestyle forever.
Yeah. And I just thought of how when we're doing something that's unfamiliar, when we're learning, sometimes it really is those 2 steps forward, 1 step back. So when I started running years ago, I immediately, because I'm very goal oriented, so I immediately set a goal because, it was simple at first. It was like, I'm just going to go. I went to the gym, actually. So I was around people, so I'm not, entirely isolated. But so I got on the treadmill and I said, I'm just going to commit 3 times a week for 30 minutes. And at first that looked pretty ugly. Like, I was on the treadmill, I was walking, then I would try and run, and then I would, it was not pretty, but I did it. And then within about a couple weeks, I was like, I need to have a further goal. So I signed up for a 10K, and it was about 2.5 months after I started on the treadmill. I ran that 10K. And what happens is, and it not only to me, but other people, and I'm sure you know this too, you start to build momentum, and the momentum creates motivation. And from the time I started running, 13 months later, I finished a half marathon. And who would have thought it, right? That's how it really works. It's like you just put in that consistent effort. So maybe for some people, it's, they do really want to do a group class, and that's something they want to get out of their comfort zone.
Right.
Know and understand, there's going to be uncomfortability, but taking it just literally a day at a time, or an exercise session at a time, you can really build on that. And then suddenly, that fear or that uncomfortability is transformed into something, you can feel really good and proud of.
Yeah. So what other tools does your book provide to help people to organize their lives, set their mindset, and to lead healthier lifestyles?
So I go through it's broken down into the 3 parts, the mind, body, kitchen. So we start with mindset. I'm a big believer that, we need to be kind and gentle with ourselves. That's not something I've always shown. So, I haven't always shown myself self-compassion.
Yeah.
And,
I think a lot of people do not. I think a lot of people are very self-sabotaging and very not harming, but we say things to ourselves we'd never say to somebody else.
Exactly.
Right.
Exactly. Yeah, so I take people through a process on that, and just, looking at the ways that, we talk to ourselves, um, and reframing how we talk to ourselves. So that's a big part of the mind process. Then body talks about nutrition, basics of nutrition. So I talked a little bit about, reading nutrition labels, or, making a choice if you're going to eat something that's out of a package, 5 ingredients or less. So very simple things, because I'm not, as much as I believe in science, I'm not a scientist by any means. I mean, I'm more of a creative. So, I didn't do well in economics in college, it forced me to change my major to communications.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't want to get too technical with things, because I couldn't understand it. And I thought, if I can't understand this, like, how am I going to explain it to people? So I was like, let me just very simply lay this out. So there's information on nutrition, easy nutrition choices, and then exercise. I do go through a process of helping people uncover what's going to work for them.
Yeah.
And talking about being an introvert versus an extrovert and all those things. And then I go into the kitchen. I introduce a method that I've used since probably 2005 called the GO-PACK method.
Mm-hmm.
And it's an acronym that stands for group objects: purge, assign, contain, and keep it up. So it helps people to use that method to organize anything, really, from a junk drawer to, an entire home, but specifically the kitchen in this case.
Yeah. So where can people find your book?
The book is available online, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Indie Books.
Okay. So, and you have the other one too, your first book that you wrote. So this is your second book, and you can get both of those on the same.
Yeah, The Organized Mom, I believe, is still available on Amazon.
Okay.
Yep.
Is there anything else you wanted to leave our listeners with today?
I did want to jump back to just quickly about the idea of deprivation, or depriving ourselves, because I think that's important to kind of balance things out. When you're making lifestyle changes, it really is not an all or nothing game. And if you do find yourself, saying, I can't have that, or I shouldn't have that, try and reframe that a little bit, because it's really all about moderation and not depriving yourself. Nobody likes to be told what to do, or be told they can't have something. So I think when we start doing that to ourselves, it just creates the potential for sabotage. But also just a reminder to just be gentle with yourself, and speak to yourself like you would somebody you love. I have an example in the book about an instance where my daughter was 6 and she spilled milk all over the back seat of the car, and how I got really upset with her. And I was horrified with myself, the way I spoke with her. And it started me on this path to think, oh my gosh, I think I sometimes speak to myself like that. So we just need to be kinder and gentler.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it goes a very, very long way. It's kind of like affirmations, the more you tell yourself positive things about yourself, you will start to believe it. When you believe it, that's when the results will come. Because if you're constantly telling yourself, I am fat, I am ugly, I am stupid, I am never gonna exercise, I'm never gonna be anything, you are telling yourself that is what you are. So the moment you say, I am beautiful, I am successful, I am healthy, I am eating better, you are those things. You become those things because you are putting it out there. And it's basically, I mean, we may not be able to be woo-woo, but putting it in the universe, but you're basically telling yourself to do those things.
Yes.
That's really, at the end of the day, what it is. I'm beautiful every day. And at some point, you really will start to believe that, because you are, So I love that. I love the idea of your book. I think it's great, because all of those things do work together, and you have to work on every one of them. you can't just work on the one piece. You can't just exercise and think you're going to lose weight. You can't just diet and think that, once you lose weight, you're going to be happy. And you have to really work on all of those things to really live that lifestyle and believe it as well. So,
yeah, and sustain it. I think that's the thing. It really comes down to creating, like I said, those small shifts that over time give you the big results. It's habit change, behavior change. And, change isn't easy. And that's why we need to be nice to ourselves.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, your book is Mind, Body, Kitchen, Transform You and Your Kitchen for a Healthier Lifestyle. I will post the links for that in the show notes so that people can go look at your book and find out more. But Stacey, thank you so much for coming on the show today.
Thanks, Gabrielle. My pleasure.
Yeah. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you all next week.
Thank you so much for listening to the Fit Minute Podcast, Fitness for Real People, with your host, Gabrielle Mazar. If you would like more information on today's episode, you can find it in the show notes and on Gabrielle's website at www.destinationfitcations.com. Visit to keep an eye out for upcoming fitcations. Be sure to share the show, give this podcast a review, and subscribe so you won't miss an episode. Join us next week to hear more stories from people just like you. This has been the Fit Minute Podcast, Fitness for Real People with Gabrielle Mazar.